Good morning. Now I'm going to tell you something. Good morning, friends. My dog has not made a sound all morning until right now when I hit go live. Now she's up off the couch. She's going to come over and bark. What in the world is going on with that dog? Let me throw her outside real quick. My goodness, that dog is just going to drive me drinking if she don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln. Hey, you may ask, why didn't I put the dog outside before I started the broadcast? Well, because she doesn't want to go outside before I start the broadcast. And plus, it's like blizzard conditions out there. So do you guys see? I still got my hair in my rollers. I was so delayed getting started this morning. But if we lose you because of the snowy, windy conditions, stick around, see if I'm able to regain my signal, and then we'll come back on and just move forward with our tea tasting as best I can. We are bad enough right now that all around us, our county and all the surrounding areas are under a no-tow ban. So if you go out in this and you get stuck, you're stuck. It's too bad. They're not picking you up. 30 minutes from now. Well, that's weird. It shouldn't say 30 minutes from now because I had it set for 10:15. And even on my little countdown, as I was sitting here trying to get ready, it said, 15 seconds to showtime at 10:15. So I don't know what StreamYard and Facebook are doing, but I'm sorry about that, Gwen, but I'm glad you're here. It'll always be 10:15. I almost wasn't sure I was going to make it today. My daughter-in-law is not feeling well, so keep her in your prayers. My son took her to the emergency room today, so we had to take her to the little small emergency room instead of taking her up to the larger city where he wants to take her because the roads are so bad. So, you misread it. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, my bang for your bucks. How you doing? I haven't seen you in a long, long time. What? Thank you for a $5 super sticker. You're so wonderful. I haven't received a super sticker in a long, long time. I truly appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. That helps Mama buy a cup of tea. So let me take my last curler out of my hair. I told you guys when we were going to be doing these teas that you never knew how I was going to show up. I might show up in my pajamas. I might show up with my hair in curlers, in a colonial nightcap. Who knows? Today it was the curlers. And if you have not tried, this is not a promo or anything, but if you've not tried these little Conair bendy sticks, got to try them. Adorable curls. People throw them away or they sell them, they put them in yard sales or they pass them by because they don't know how to use them. They don't know how to use these. I've got a video on it. Look for the video. Use a piece of tissue paper, almost like you do a perm paper. Roll them up. They give you gorgeous curls, ladies. Gorgeous, gorgeous curls. Look at those curls. I love them. My hair is a little fuzzy this morning because it's dry and humid in here because we've got the heater going because we're in the middle of a blizzard. It's so 80s, isn't it? You are so right, but I love them, and that's just it. People are getting rid of them because they are so 80s, and I snag them up for either free or $1.50 for a set, and I love to use them because I love the curl they give me. So you're here for our tea on the 16th. This is our 16th day getting together for our Advent calendar for tea. If you're watching this at the end of, if somebody comes in at the end, I hope they watch the replay because we've been having a lot of fun. So what Papa Jim has picked up for me is this 24 days of tea. I'm not sponsored by this tea company. They get nothing from me other than my honest input. They didn't send me this. Papa Jim bought it for me. Hello, Equus. How you doing? It's too cold here for snow. It's too cold in London for snow. I quote curling my hair. Oh, you quit curling your hair because it's pointless here. The humidity kills the curls as soon as you step out the door. I've had that happen here in Iowa as well. I've had that too, where there's days I'm just like, forget it. I'm just going to throw it into a ponytail and walk out the door. But we've got day 24. I've got to tell you something, guys. I loved day 15 so much that 9-berry blend, that fruit infusion we had yesterday. As soon as Papa Jim came home, he said, "How was your tea time today?" I said, "I loved it. Go put that in your cart right now. We need to buy more of it." Can't find it on their website. You can get it in another kit, but you can't just buy it. Stinkers. I'm telling you. Today's the 16th. Here's our 16th little box. Let's pull that out. We already pulled it out yesterday because we had a little bit of a hand malfunction because I couldn't open up my tea yesterday. And then just at the last second, I was able to open it. So we put 16 back, but we already know it's a little elf something. So let's check. Let's check our tea for the 16th of December. And again, it wasn't as pretty as the other one we had yesterday, but it's still a pretty little tea in its own right. Look at that. It's got some really nice elements in there. We did not read what was in this yesterday because or did we? I don't think so, because we were able to get the number 15 open. Buy all the dehydrated ingredients and make your own. I don't know where I'm going to get like juniper berries to do something like that with. I'd probably end up poisoning myself. But the other ones, sure, I can come up with something and make my own blend. No doubt. Or I'm just going to contact the company and say, "Hey, what's the deal? You get me hooked on this tea and then you make it so I can't buy it." Let's fix that. So let's take a sniffy do here. Been trying out the Curly Girl method for a year or so. I'll have to look that up. I don't know what the Curly Girl method is. Let's take a sniff of our tea. It has a sweet chocolatey scent. Very pretty. I can see what appears to be maybe cranberries, dried cranberries in here, or maybe cherries. Is it a cherry chocolate? What? What are you doing? Thank you. Buy your own tea then, friend. Thank you so much. What a beautiful Christmas blessing you are this morning. Thank you so much. Gosh darn, you are just wonderful. I'm going to show that. Look what you've done. Now you got me all at Twitter. You got me all flustered. Thank you, friend. We have a wonderful health food store in the neighboring town that has just about anything you can imagine. And if they don't have it, they will get it. If you've ever seen the movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And the George Clooney character, he says, "Well, you're just a geographical oddity. You're 20 miles from everything." That's pretty much where we're like 50 miles from anything remotely like that. I would say for a health food store, I might be able to go to a health food store about 40 miles away. Otherwise, I'm thinking probably 70 to 90 miles away. And I don't know if I'd get everything I want. Let's look at what our tea ingredients are today. Oh, I'm so thankful to my friend. Thank you so much for doing that. Merry Christmas, friend. Elf Help is the name of our tea today. And it's right here on the back of our box. We're going to be able to see what our ingredients are. So here we go. We have green tea, black currants, orange peel, papaya. I think we did read this yesterday, didn't we? Apple, cranberries, coconut, natural flavorings, and it is kosher. Yum. And it smells good. It smells like chocolate, but there's no chocolate. Oh, and that's from a movie. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, 30 miles from everything. Yeah, we're in the middle of nowhere. We're far away from everything. So let me check real quick because I forgot to look for something very, very important about our tea. And I always try to hold the glasses up like you see like librarians do, and it never works for me. Still can't do it. I have to put them on my face. We're going to heat our water to 185 degrees for 3 to 4 minutes. So we have our little tea kettle here that I'm just loving this tea kettle, guys, because I'm able to just hit a presetting on it, hit start, and it heats the water up to the proper temperature for whatever tea it is that we are brewing. So it would help if it was plugged in. Not getting nowhere if it ain't plugged in. So let's hit start, and let's bring the camera down. You love my hair color. Thank thank you. It is, right now it looks kind of like a rose gold, but when it's freshly colored, you can see my post chemo gray coming in here. When it is its true color, it is a beautiful magenta pink. So probably right before the holidays, I'll dye it pink again. But I love having pink hair, and I always quip that I choose fun colors because my oncologist used to do my hair, which means for a long time I was bald. So when it grew back in, it's like, I'm just going to do something fun with it. And I love this pink color that I have found. I do it all the time. You need the single lens on a chain like they used to have. Yes, I need a little chain with just the little one that I can just hold up like that, huh? That would be fun. Oh, thank you so much for joining us, T. I appreciate it so much. And thank you for the love, for the Christmas love. I really, really appreciate it. We will stop by over at your house next opportunity. I know you're out and about and doing all kinds of fun things. And but thank you so much for joining me. You don't want to see the tea brew, huh? We like to watch the little tea leaf dance. It's amazing. Thank you so much, friend. I will see you soon. All right, back to the tea. Isn't he wonderful? Go on over, check out Mo Bang for Your Bucks. Go see T over there. I'm going to admit, because of my brain, I can't remember if it's Tim or Tom. I think it's Tim. Is it Tim? It's Tim, right? I'll admit that I have brain farts from occasion and I can't remember, and he's probably already gone. So let's open up our tea. And like I said, what a wonderful thing for him to drop us a little bit of love this morning. I'm so grateful for that. That comes in handy at the holidays. See, I knew it was Tim. I knew it was Tim or Tom, but I was leaning with Tim. Thank you so much, Tim, for visiting us this morning. I appreciate it. And I hope everything's going well with you, friend. So we're going to brew our tea. Like I said, it smells like it has chocolate in it, but it doesn't say it has chocolate. Let's bring our camera down a little bit here. And we're going to add our tea leaves to our infuser, which if you don't have one of these infusers, you are missing out. Ooh, look at that chunk of cranberry that just went in. I'm going to try to put just a little bit more, but save some of the bigger chunks of cranberries for our next brew. And we're just waiting for the water to heat up, and then we'll pour our water in. Look how frizzy my hair is this morning. I could not get it to settle down to save my life. I'm telling you. All right, while we're waiting for our tea to, let me take that down. While we're waiting for our tea water to brew, let's see if we can pull up our Advent calendar for the day and see what our little kids are sharing with us for our kindness calendar. I'm loving this little kindness calendar. I love that these little sixth graders find beautiful things for us to be thankful for and have random acts of kindness throughout our holiday season, which I'm hoping if you hear one that you particularly like, you'll use it for more than just that one day. So today is the 16th, and here is our fun little calendar that we're using, all created by sixth graders. I think they're in France. Might be in Canada, because this is in English and French. Maybe it's Canada. Okay, I can tell you right now, today I'm not doing this one here where I am. I will have to save this one for the springtime, because today it's Pick Up Trash in the Community Day. And we have a little snowman here, and he's picking up trash all around the Christmas tree. And that's very good of that snowman. But in this blizzard, I'm going to have a hard time just even feeding my chickens, let alone pick up trash. But let's see what these adorable little sixth graders have to share with us today. For today's act of kindness, you can pick up garbage on your street. It is not much, but it helps your community. Isn't that true? Just grab a garbage bag and walk outside and pick up all the garbage on your street or community. And here's a second little thing with this little Christmas elf saying, why do people not pick up their garbage? So cute. I would suggest, though, even though their hearts are in the right places, if you're going to do anything like that, make sure you get one of those little grabby things. Don't touch the trash. Just be careful what you touch, because who knows what's on stuff anymore. But I do that out here. You know, I left a community when we lived in Southern California. You know how sometimes you step away from something and when you go back, it's with fresh eyes. I always knew that we had a litter problem where we lived. I can remember when I would take trips to visit family and we would leave California, And then when we would drive back in, it's like as soon as you hit the state line, there was just trash everywhere. All along the interstate, there was trash. And I went back for a visit a few years ago, and I was amazed at how exponentially worse that condition has gotten where we used to live. There was trash everywhere, and it's just so depressing. And living out here where I live now, it's very rare that I see trash on my road. But when I see trash on my road, it infuriates me. I become the grouchy old woman on the street because, you know, if you want to throw your McDonald's out the window and litter all over this beautiful farmland, go back to where you came from. I don't want you here. Don't want you littering up my street. I get out, I pick it up, and then I take it to the trash for them. But I just wish they wouldn't do that. So our water's done. Let's go ahead, bring the camera down and see if we can, reading about juniper berries, they're used to flavor gin. Wow. You know what? If there's nothing else with these tea things, aren't we learning a lot? We've learned about juniper berries. What was it we learned about on day one? What was it we learned about on day one? We had an ingredient in day one, and Rochelle looked it up for us. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was, but it helped with inflammation and all kinds of things. I don't remember. Let's bring our camera down and pour our water into our tea. Can you guys see that okay right there? I hope you can, because if you can't, I can't even read what you're saying because the camera's turned down. I rinsed out my infuser, but I didn't dry it off. You can see I've got water spots on it. All right, there's our tea. Oh, we've got a pretty little tea leaf dance. Let me turn it where you can see the tea leaves and not the brand on there. Look at the pretty little tea leaf dance we've got going on. Just going to get these cranberries in here a little bit, stir it nice. Nice hot water. It's a beautiful, beautiful blend as all of those beautiful cranberries and everything float on the top. That is so pretty. That really is a pretty one. I'm so discouraged that I can't get the other tea. I'm really going to say something to him. Why would you put all of these beautiful flavors in an advent calendar and make it nearly impossible to get it? Juniper is also antiviral for flu. Wow, look at the health benefits. Can somebody remember what the ingredient was? What was our first day? Our first day was, I'll know it when I see it. I'll know it when I see it because I think we should talk about it. I remember it was mistletoe. Merry mistletoe. And what did we have in there? It was mistletoe. That's the ingredient we're missing. Mistletoe. Mistletoe had so many wonderful healing properties and medicinal properties that you just wouldn't think of because we've all been brought up to think that mistletoe is bad. It's poisonous. And here now we've got juniper berries where I remember as a kid growing up, don't touch the little berries on the juniper trees because they weren't good for you. And here we are. Good morning, Tiny Tim. How are you? You can't have your sound loud right now. That's okay. We'll whisper. It's okay. So let's see. We poured our water about a minute ago. We need a good 3 to 5 minutes on this tea blend. So we're just going to let it sit off to the side here. And let's see what is going on. We've already discussed that we've got a blizzard going right now. There's no tow ban in effect right now. I really tried to get Papa Jim to keep from going into work today and just stay home. But that man has a work ethic like you would not believe. And he went to go take the truck today because my truck has 4-wheel drive. It's his truck. He lets me use it. And he usually takes his old man grandpa car to work because it gets better gas mileage. Well, today he went to go take the truck and the battery's dead. So he had to take his old man car on these roads where we're in blizzard conditions and it does not have 4-wheel drive. So I told him, I said, as soon as you get to work, you've got to let me know that you made it okay. He came home early last night. I wish you could see the snow blowing in the yard. It's just insane. He came home early last night. He was home before the sun went down. It's like, oh, I hope everything's okay. He said the road conditions were getting to the point where he just wanted to come home early. And he was sharing with my son. My son called to make sure he made it home okay. He says, yeah, he says, you know, I got to the little 4-way stop in the little town that he comes through to get to our farm. There's no stop lights. There's just a little 4-way stop in the center of town. He says, yeah. He says, I put on the brakes and I just slid right on through. And he says he was only going about 10 or 15 miles an hour. but he put the brakes on. He just kept right on going. Juniper berries here have the potential to live up to 900 years. Oh my gosh, that's insane. The longevity of a tree. Isn't that amazing? Let's find a story from our blog today. I don't know what story I want to share with you guys. I've had one on my mind for a couple of days now. You know when you get those little things in the corner of your mouth? I feel like I got that. There's one I've been thinking about for a couple of days, and maybe I'll just go. Yeah, I think Tiny Tim, I think Tim left. He was kind enough to grace me with some Christmas cheer, said his howdies, and I think he had other things to do today, but I'm so happy that he stopped by to say hello. And he blessed me today, so I'm very thankful for that. Such a wonderful thing to do. I wanted to read a story. Let's see if I can find where I put it. You write so many stories that they just start piling up on each other, right? Here it is. I found it. I don't know why I've wanted to share this one with you for a couple days now. So I've got it pulled up. I wrote this Thursday, December 2nd, 2010. So 12 years ago, I wrote this one. And I don't know why, it always tickles me when I think about this one. It's called God and Donuts. And if you've heard it before, I apologize, but I do love this one. When you're a stay-at-home mom, parents who are in need of a babysitter naturally gravitate towards you. Looking back, I babysat a lot of kids. I should have opened a daycare from my home and made some money while I was at it, but more often than not, babysitting was gratis or bartered. During the summer of 1996, I fostered 2 neighborhood children while their mother completed her CNA courses at a local senior care facility. Single mom, 2 little babies. She needed help, so I watched the babies for her free of charge so she could get educated and actually have a career. Ashley and Raymond were with my family more than their mother during those 8 months. It was only natural that Raymond, age 7, and my son Jacob, age 8, would develop a relationship that bordered between friendship and siblings. They spent a lot of time together, especially during the summer months as there was no respite of a classroom separation. One summer day, I had decided to load up all of the kids and take them to the park. They had been cooped up at the house for days on end, and they needed to run off some steam. We had a backyard, but like 70% of the backyard was consumed by a swimming pool, so they really didn't have a place to run. So we took them to the park this day. How are we doing on time? Let that sit just a couple more minutes. As we neared the park, we passed our church. As I drove, I overheard an in-depth discussion develop from the back of my minivan. Jacob and Raymond had started a competitive banter that went a little something like this. Jacob says, "You see that church over there, Raymond? That's my church." And Raymond says, "Oh, yeah? Well, my church is bigger." Jacob's retort is, "Oh, yeah? Well, my pastor is Pastor Dave." Little Raymond says, "Oh, yeah? Well, my pastor's like my dad. Best dad ever. He's just the best dad ever. We even call him Father." A couple seconds go by and Jacob says, "Well, we get to go there every week for Sunday school and Wednesdays for kids' church." Raymond says, "Oh, yeah? Well, we can go to Mass every day if we want to." There was silence from the back of the minivan. My son Jacob had run out of holier-than-thou ammunition. I thought for sure Raymond had won this round. And maybe he would have won the victory. It was in his sights if he just would have let it be. You know how they talk about let sleeping dogs lie? He won this one. He should have kept his mouth shut. But he had to go for one more jab at Jacob. Raymond pipes in. He says, well, we have holy water. Jacob knows he's got it. Now he's like, oh, yeah? Well, we have donuts. Game, set, match. Goes to Jacob. And I thought, that's right. That's my boy. He won that evangelical showdown. Thank you to Pastor Dave and the ladies of the church for always making sure we had donuts every Sunday. Oh, I love that one. It was so genuine and real and sincere. And those little ones just having their showdown in the backseat of the car. And I just love the way he said, he's like, oh, yeah, well, our church has donuts. It was so funny. Hey, let's pour our tea. Let's pour our tea. I'm going to bring this down. And our tea has been steeping for well over 3 to 5 minutes as I shared that little story. You can see how much the tea leaves have swelled up. Look at how they've all unfurled and swelled up in that nice hot water. Let's go ahead and get this dispensed into our coffee cup or our little teacup here. I'm going to move this because I want to turn this and see if you can see this. Can you guys see? Where's my finger? Can you guys see that little cranberry right there? Doesn't that look like a happy little cranberry? It's got a smiley face. Can you see that? I can't tell if you can see it. Maybe my finger's covering it. Right there. There's a happy little cranberry. So cute. I tell you, like I've said before, small minds amuse easily. I'm just so amused with some of these things with the tea. It cracks me up. Just cracks me up. Everybody's saying hello and yes, please. Use juniper. Juniper berries were also used. I thought it was a warmer. I thought you were saying it's a warmer. It's like, oh, you warm them up and put them in your socks. A warmer. Let's hope we don't need any of that going on here on the farm. I love that everybody's saying good morning. I hope you all have something nice and warm to drink. Our story was rather short today. It was a short one. I might follow up after we sip our tea. I might follow up with one more. It involves the same child and involves another evangelical approach to story time with him. He was so insightful sometimes. I mean, yeah, okay, God and donuts isn't necessarily that insightful, but there's another story. And let me see it. Let me pull it up. Then we'll sip our tea. And because I want to have it ready because it really is a nice one. I just have to find it real quick while our tea is cooling. There it is. I got it ready. It was just right there because I think I wrote them around the same time because I was kind of going through a Jacob phase in my storytelling and telling the stories about my son, Jacob. I love that boy. Okay, let's take a sip of our tea, see if we need to add a little bit of honey or anything else to it. Oh, bad Celerius, he's posting. You're riding in a truck. Yeah, thank goodness you're not riding on your motorcycle while you're listening and texting. My goodness. Takes 3 years for the juniper berries to mature. I love that you guys are able to pull interesting facts up about some of the ingredients in these teas that we're sharing so that we can all get a little bit of knowledge about them. I think that's wonderful. See, learned a lot this morning about juniper berries. I agree. Thank you for looking that up. So we're going to have, let's see, yesterday we had a dose of juniper berries. Today we're having the cranberries and everything else here. So let's take a little sip and see how this tastes. It needs something, definitely needs something. It's got that, you know, when you drink cranberry juice and then you kind of get that feeling on your tongue from the cranberries. And you can buy juniper berries online. I might just put my own blend together. Maybe with the little gift that Tim sent us, maybe we can get what we need to put our own tea blend together. I'm going to add a little bit of Iowa honey to our tea this morning. And I don't know if I should, again, that's the bottle making that noise. That's not It's not me. It's the tea. Yes, it's a dry pucker, exactly, that those cranberries create. I don't know what happened. I had such a cute little spoon here yesterday. Oh, there it is. I found it. I had it all set up, and then I couldn't find it. The box was in the way. So let's add a little bit of honey to our tea blend this morning. I got honey on my pinky. Pinky's up. And let's see how that turned out. Oh, that's nicer. You know, honey just really seems to just really make it nice. I'm not going to add any lemon juice to it. I like it just with the honey. You know, I loved that tea yesterday so much that while we were on the air, I went ahead and I set up a second batch to infuse, which I'm going to do with this one too, because there's no sense in wasting this little bit of tea that we've got in here. Let's add a little bit more water if I can do it without burning myself, just enough to maybe top off my cup a little bit. We'll just set this aside. But I had 2 full cups of that tea yesterday. I loved it. And I was so excited for Papa Jim to buy some more. Oh, I go through phases that I must have cranberry grape juice. Yum. Was it 2 years ago? I made, I don't know, maybe 24 to 30 quarts of my own cranberry infusion. And I had orange cranberry, apple cranberry, cran raspberry, and then just regular cranberry, and, you know, did them in my water bath canner. I've still got a few jars left, but I'm waiting for cranberries to go on sale so I can make some more cranberry juice. And, you know, places aren't putting them on clearance like they did last year. The lowest I've seen is $1.50 a bag. And when I made my cranberry juice all those years ago, 2 years ago, they were down to like 50 cents a bag or 25 cents a bag. And I'd scoop them up and I'd share them with my neighbor Karen, or did she buy them and share them with me? One of us did it. We're both right now on the lookout for cranberries for each other. But I'm getting low on my cranberry juice, but I love doing it. Yes, Mr. Jim will be around tomorrow. I know you guys love seeing that silly man. So let me take one more sip. I got honey on the counter. I know I'm going to make a mess. Thank goodness I have a little towel handy. Okay. This is the same kid, Jacob, and it's a little evangelical little story from him. This one is a little more touching. It's not as funny as the Ha Ha God and Donuts, but I loved this one. I can still see myself in this scenario when this happened. I can still see so many details of it because it was so touching. So this one is called "We'll Leave the Light On For You." What's that make you think of when you hear "We'll leave the light on for you"? So this was written Thursday, December 23rd, 2010. But I'm sure it didn't happen in 2010 because I was looking back on it. So, we'll leave the light on for you. The years of raising 4 boys flew by fast and furious. Having quality one-on-one mommy-son time with the boys didn't happen very often, but I do remember some key moments of special times with my boys. One year, as opposed to celebrating New Year's Eve in a festive fashion, I had the privilege of escorting my 3rd son, Jacob, to yet another visit to the emergency room. Another holiday in the ER. It was a Thompson family tradition. It seems like Jacob and I spend a lot of time together in this ritual. Too many trips to the ER with that little one, but that's another story. On this crisp, cool evening, we had about a 30-mile drive ahead of us to the hospital. Jacob was quietly sitting in the passenger seat, probably wondering why he was always the one who got hurt, and he was. Out of all 4 boys, it was always him. If you were to add up the injuries from the other 3 boys, it would not even compare to the injuries that Jacob has sustained in his young life. And I don't know if I mentioned it further down, but I believe he's had 19 broken bones, a partial amputation. Black widow spider bit him, had an apricot branch go through the soft palate of his mouth, had his partial amputation was his toe was almost completely cut off. I mean, just on and on and on. Poor kid. He was my challenge. Oh my goodness. Tonight's visit was compliments of a bicycle crash. The crash wasn't so bad, but as Jacob fell, his hand somehow got pulled into the chain and the gears of the bicycle. He had a severely broken finger. It wouldn't be his first and certainly wasn't his last. As we drove through the countryside, the full moon was shining down on the fields, illuminating the grazing cows and a windmill in the distance. Everything was peaceful in the van despite his injury. I can still see it in my mind. It's so beautiful. I'm not quite sure what prompted Jacob's thought processes that night at that exact moment, but while looking out at the silvery pastures, Jacob asked me what heaven was like. It was a deep question, especially for a young boy of about 9 years of age. I thought about my answer for a moment, and I replied with the universal interpretation of heaven. I told him of the stories of the pearly gates, the streets of gold. I told him about how we would be greeted by our loved ones, how we would never hurt, we would never be hungry, and we would never want for anything. Jacob thought long and hard about my explanation of heaven. He then turned to me very softly and said, "Oh, it's kind of like a Motel 6. "Yes, Jacob," I said, smiling. "It's kind of like a Motel 6. Everything you could possibly want, you'll have met." It seems those cross-country trips that I took with my boys did make an impression on them after all, didn't they, son? Isn't it wonderful how children see such wonder in things we adults find mundane and ordinary? After I shared that story with my parents, they would save anything and everything from their trips abroad and would intentionally stay at Motel 6 just to get the right offerings for a child so impressed with the motel chain. Little shampoos, little soaps, anything they could get that say Motel 6 on them. Billy Mays, who was the spokesperson for Motel 6 back in the day, had just passed away when I first decided to write this post. I imagine that right now he is up in heaven keeping all of those angels' gowns sparkling with his OxyClean. But move over, Billy. When Tom Bodette comes to heaven, there will be a new spokesperson. Heaven, just like Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you. And then I put at the very bottom of this, I said, "Oh, Jonathan." And then that was an inside joke between Jacob and I told him that I love him. So it was so sweet that something so innocent as a Motel 6 brought such magic to a child. Let's see. I used to wonder when we are old or gone, who would take care of our community? I now know it is in good hands. Oh, what did I miss? I missed something up a little bit higher, a little bit higher. Okay. Oh, the man came and got the ornament yesterday, and an elderly neighbor posted something so profound on the post I made trying to find the owner. She said, oh, on the post you made, trying to find the owner, she said, "I used to wonder when we are old or gone, who would take care of our community. I know now it is in good hands." Oh, how sweet. That is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. You know, I was talking about poor Jacob and his hand getting that finger broken, but the story about the "Oh, Jonathan" thing is while we were at the emergency room, and the great kid had a great sense of humor. I mean, he was always in an emergency room somewhere. There was one time I took him in for stitches one time. And the thing is he had cut his hand and he called me, not in a panic. He just called me from the other room. He goes, "I need sutures." I mean, he was like 9, right? 8, 9 years old. He goes, "I need sutures." He knew. So I put him in the car, you know, wrapped him up, put him in the car, and we drove off to the urgent care where they knew us by name. And he walked in, he says to the nurse at front, he goes, "I need sutures." So they took us to the back, and the doctor looks at me and goes, "Mom." I says, "I know." He goes, "Glove up." I mean, it was to the point where I was gloving up and assisting in sewing my kid back together because they knew us so well. That kid, he was always doing something. And I mean, I'm thankful that in that day and age, a lot of the times the things he did was in the presence of another adult. So I had a witness because I know people were like, why is this child always getting so hurt? And there were two occasions in the emergency room where the police actually came to kind of interrogate me because they always thought some of his injuries were just a little suspicious, but they weren't. They weren't suspicious. It's just one of those things that happen when you have 4 kids. When you have 4 boys that are just rough and tumble and always doing something, and he was always getting himself hurt. So let me see if I can find this one thing here to show you about my poor boy. This is the kind of stuff my poor boy always had to put up with. I just love this kid, though. I tell you, my heart hurts for him sometimes because of the things he has to go through. Here it is. Let's see which one to show you. I'll show you this one. This is a good one. We had gone to the desert with some friends, and they had like a Polaris, or I can't think of the other names, but like, just like a little runabout, seats 2 people in the front, little desert dune buggy type of a thing. And our friends had brought it, and they had allowed Jacob, who was 19 at the time, to take their younger son out in the desert and go for a little ride. Now, I could see if he got in an accident because he's being irresponsible and speeding and blah, 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 blah. You could almost be like, well, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. But he was going exceptionally slow. They were going up a hill in this little Polaris thing, and there was a rock. And he went up over the rock. And what he didn't know is he wasn't just going up over the rock. The rock had been displaced earlier by another vehicle. And so on the other side of the rock, there was a big hole. So he went up over the rock and then went down in the hole. And when he went down in the hole, the Polaris tipped. So it tipped to the driver's side. And they were both seat belted in. They were responsible. And like I said, he wasn't going fast at all. But when it tipped, he grabbed the bar, the roll bar. And when he grabbed the roll bar, the entire vehicle rolled on top of his hand. And then it pinned him to the ground. So they're out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and he's pinned, and they're upside down, and nobody could get their seatbelt off. Eventually, this little kid got his seatbelt off. No. Yeah. Eventually, I think Jacob pulled his hand out, was able to undo the little kid sitting next to him, and the little kid found a campsite somewhere and got help. But this is my son's hand. You see the broken bones? It crushed his hand, and it sent all of those broken bones out. His hand split like a tomato, and the bones came out the palm of his hand. And I remember we went to go get him. My husband went to go get him and brought him back to our camp. And luckily, the camp that they'd stumbled into there was a nurse there vacationing with her family. And she had it all wrapped up. And she told my husband, don't look at it. Don't unwrap it. Get him straight to a hospital. So we knew. And, by the time you have that many broken bones with a kid, you're like, he's broken bones before. It'll be fine. It wasn't fine. It was not fine. He was going into shock. We were miles away from a hospital. Didn't know where to go to even find a hospital. We loaded him up into a truck and we're driving. And by miracle, we ran into a Bureau of Land Management Ranger truck coming our direction. We flagged them down. They got out and assessed him. He was going into full-blown shock. And don't forget, okay. They called for Metaflight. They were going to medevac him out of there. Metaflight wasn't available. They were taking care of somebody else who had been in an accident. So they had to call a trauma land ambulance to come and meet us. And so they could get him stabilized and then take him to a hospital. So he had to have surgery. And luckily, they saved his hand. They told us before they took him into surgery. I'm telling you, this hospital, he was taken to one hospital to be stabilized, and then he was taken to University of San Diego, California, University of Southern California, San Diego. and they had the top Southern California hand surgeon on standby. They called him in. And when we pulled up to that hospital in that ambulance, the ambulance attendant in the back with us, he says, now, when we get there, there's going to be a lot of activity. So just try to stick with me and we'll get you where you need to go, but just be prepared. I was like, okay. When we got there, they took him out of the ambulance to a secured elevator right there as you pulled up. You didn't even have to go inside the emergency room. It was on the exterior of the building. They used a key to open the elevator. We got in the elevator. We went up like 5 floors. And when it opened up, it was like a scene out of Grey's Anatomy. 15 people rushed him. We weren't even out of the elevator. As we're coming out of the elevator, they just rushed him. They're cutting things off. They're taking all of his vitals and they whisked him away. And I was just left standing there. But the surgeon came out and he says, I'm not sure I can save his hand. There's a lot of damage. I'm not sure if I can save it, but I'm going to do my best. And they saved it. So my poor boy, he's got 3 plates and 18 titanium screws holding his hand together. And you see how his hand is curled like that, like the Terminator? He had to go to weeks and weeks of physical therapy to get those muscles to stretch out. And it was painful. It was so, so sad. And, you know, his hand split out the palm of the hand. And this isn't too gruesome, but they went through the top of his hand to put the pins in. And you could see the difference in how swollen that hand is. He was not a happy camper. He had just learned to play guitar. Felt so bad for him. My poor boy. I'm telling you, he's such a sweet thing. And it just always happens to him. Something always happens to him. So I'm thankful and grateful to say that he hasn't had anything in a very long time. He's been, how many weeks of physiotherapy? Weeks. And this was 100 miles from home, and we had to go every day for the physical therapy. Then he had to have occupational therapy. He had to learn, you know, how to pick things up again and how to work those muscles, because the whole thing he had a claw like this. And they said, if you don't work it, you're going to have a claw the rest of your life. So it took a long time for him to work that out. And I'll tell you, it was the first time as a parent that both Jim and I, like when, the twin wings activate, we went into super mode. And as soon as we got him home from the hospital, my husband handed our other son $40, said, go get him some medicine because we're going to let him self-medicate. So, and it was in California, it was legal. I just have to be careful how I say it here, but we allowed him to self-medicate because it took the edge off for him. Hello, our treasured home. Hello. But what was funny is, going back on that story, is they couldn't call the helicopter for him because the helicopter was picking somebody else up. That person ended up being another young man who ended up sharing a room with Jacob at that same hospital. They were roommates. And that boy was on a quad, and he'd come up over a sand dune. And when he landed hard, and his femur broke and shoved up through the back of his pelvis. That kid had some serious issues. But what was really sad was Jacob was just at the right age, and it was before things were done in medical insurance stuff. He didn't qualify for our medical insurance. So he had no medical insurance. So we applied to the state to help him, but he wasn't 21. If he was 21, he could declare medically indigent. So he was just in that window where he had no health insurance. His bill was over $100,000. And then to make it worse, our other son drove his car to the hospital from the desert, because he drove his own car, parked it in the parking structure. It ended up getting a ticket and getting towed. I mean, it just went all wrong for my poor boy. And he got depressed and stuff. But, he's pulled through. He's doing really great. He says sometimes he can feel the screws and sometimes his hand hurts, but I'm so thankful that they were able to save his hand. The surgeon was the typical arrogant short man syndrome surgeon, but we thanked him for saving our son's hand. But, we were just sharing our treasure at home. We were just sharing a story about one beautiful night with a full moon when I had to take my son to the ER. And you'll have to go back and see the story because it was such a touching moment with my son and I about talking about heaven and things like that. And then I shared a story earlier about God and donuts with my kid. So, but those are my stories for today. I love my boy. Usually he's off on Thursdays, but I didn't call him yesterday. I need to call him and check in on him and see how he's doing. He's a husband and a father, and they bought their first home a few years ago, and he just got himself a new truck, and he's doing really, really well. He's gone to college and, all these things that at that moment in time when he was laying in that hospital, he wasn't sure was going to be an option for him. He's doing really, really good. So let's take another sip of our tea. What was this tea called again? Something Elf. I do like it. I like it. Elf Help with cranberries and all kinds of good stuff. Let's see. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. I'm enjoying this one. Not as much as yesterday's. I want some of that yesterday tea. I'm discouraged. I'm going to get in touch with David's Tea and say, what's the deal, yo? Why do you put something out on a little carrot in front of us and then yank it away and not make it where I can buy more of what I love? Thank you. All right, friends. Well, we've done our Advent calendar. We've read a couple stories from the blog. We've shared about how we're just kind of snowed in under snowy conditions. It's not keeping the meat trucks from going down the road there. It's my least favorite time of the year when all of the big 18-wheelers come down and they go to the pig farms and they pick up the pigs, because then they drive back by and all the pigs are screaming and I just can't handle it. Sometimes I stand out on my deck and I call them murderers as they drive by. I had a friend who had a foot operation with pins sticking out of her toes for weeks. She kept bumping her foot. Imagine. Oh, I know. Isn't that awful? There was a girl I went to school with, and I hadn't seen her in school for a while. And then one day I saw her in the library. She was doing her work in the library, and her hand had all the pins sticking out with the wires and stuff. She had been hiking and a boulder fell and crushed her hand. And luckily she wasn't like that one guy in that movie. Luckily somebody was there to help her and they were able to get, the boulder free, but she had to have surgery. Wonder how she's doing. But yeah, luckily, I'll tell you a funny story. So it had been a long day, just even trying to get to the hospital and all these things. And they're saying they might have to take my son's hand. And if we wouldn't have run into that BLM, that Bureau of Land Management ranger, and if they would not have called an ambulance, it's very possible our son would have died from shock before we got him to a hospital. We were out by the Salton Sea in the middle of nowhere. And they ended up, all of the hospitals to the north of us couldn't take him. We had to go south to El Centro. We were almost on the Mexican border before we found a hospital that could take him to triage him before he was then taken to this big university for a hand surgeon. And so I'm sitting there with the hand surgeon. I've had a lot of stuff going through my brain that day. And the surgeon comes out. He says he's not sure he's going to be able to save the hand, but they're going to get in there. They're going to clean it all up. They're going to debride it. They're going to get all of the stuff out of there. He says, so he's kind of hoping with some KY and some other things, they're going to be able to put him back together. And he goes, do you have any questions for me? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I really was confused. I said, why are you going to use KY? He looks at me like I'm the stupidest thing that just fell off the turnip truck. He goes, wires. We may have to use K wires to wire his hand back together. Oh, okay. Makes more sense. My brother had an elbow crushed, and they don't make elbow replacement joints. He had a halo with screws everywhere. All they had was a cast iron tub. He banged it on the tub numerous times. Oh, how painful. How painful. This boy, my son Jacob, he's the one when he was he 9? He must have been 9. He fell rollerblading. And he came home and he says, I fell rollerblading. He had, well, no, he didn't have wrist pads. My bad. I'm sure he had a helmet though, but he had a little bump on his knee, It's like, okay, you're all right. Well, he goes, well, my arm kind of hurts. And it's like, well, keep an eye on it. And it swelled up very little, very little. I said, well, we'll go get it looked at. Sure enough, x-ray shows that his wrist is broken. So he gets everything he needs for this cast. Then a couple days later, he's in the garage and he goes to pick up something and this one pops. It had been broken too, but nobody x-rayed this hand. So when he fell, he landed on both hands like this and he broke both arms at the same time. He was 8, now that I remember it. He was 3rd grade, 8 years old. Both hands in casts. So we had to go 6 weeks with mama taking care of everything for him. We had to make special accommodations at school for him, everything. He finally gets the casts off. He's so happy we've got the casts off. His brothers were in an outdoor production of the California State Play. It's called Ramona. And we were up at the Playhouse. It's in this big outdoor amphitheater. And he's running and he slipped in gravel and he fell and he re-broke the arm. I swear he'd only been out of a cast 3 days and I had to take him right back in with another broken arm. And this is where I say I'm so thankful that he had these accidents in front of other adults, because I'm sure people are like, this kid comes in here too much. I'm glad I had witnesses. My gosh, that poor kid. When he got his toe cut off in our recliner chair, the police showed up. And then when he got his very first broken bone, he broke the finger at the growth plate. He was 3, had a broken finger. We had bunk beds and we had separated the bunk beds because I was worried about him falling off the bunk bed. Well, they've got those dowels that go between the 2 sets of the bunk beds. And so one of the bunk beds had a hole in it and on the footboard and headboard in each little post. He put his finger in there and then fell off the bed. Same brother, 4 years old, outside playing, climbed a radio tower, fell 40 feet and broke his hip. Back in the day when kids were fine playing outside without mamas having her eye on them constantly, right? This is the way this poor kid was. He ran, he played, and he got hurt. And I'm thankful he survived everything, because that poor kid, he really put us through. Like I said, 19 broken bones. I lost count of the stitches. I have no idea how many stitches that kid's had. No clue. We were going in for stitches all the time. And that was for things like playing basketball outdoors, then falling and tripping and hitting the little retaining wall and hitting his head on a brick and cutting his head open. One time his brothers put him in a laundry basket and pushed him down the stairs because they were all taking turns riding down the stairs. And when he got to the bottom, he just went head first right into my desk. Cut it. He needed a bubble wrap all the time, right? We threatened it with our kids. We threatened bubble wrap. So, as a matter of fact, I think my son's going to, he's going to be going in to see a doctor here soon. When he was, I don't know, how old was he? 18. He was at the park with some friends and it was past curfew. And so really he shouldn't have been there. Maybe he was just 17. And the police showed up, so they all ran. Well, when he ran, he tripped over someone and he fell backwards and he dislocated his collarbone from his shoulder. And so he had that separation and it's still bothering him all these years later. So poor kid. I love that boy. I should have known just based on his birth that we would have issues, because that boy came into the world backwards, folded in half and backwards. I knew he should have been a challenge his entire life, but I love him more than anything. I love all my boys. They all have special qualities that I love about them. But my little Jacob, I sure do love that boy. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me for tea today. I hope you enjoyed your time today, despite the graphic pictures of pins and screws and Terminator hands. But Jacob is such a joy, and he always has so many unique views and outlook on things. So he's got a unique outlook on church, God, donuts, and Motel 6 and heaven. So join me tomorrow. Tomorrow's day 17. It's Saturday. Papa Jim will be here, and we will try the tea together and see what kind of fun stories we can come up with. While in traction, Mom let him up because she felt sorry for him. Got his finger stuck in the old metal powder can. Had to take him to the jewelry store to cut it off. And Major says, don't have nightmares. The moral of the one story with my son is if you're ever going to be in a rollover accident, don't put your hand out to try to grab onto something to stabilize yourself. Tuck your arms in. Don't let your arms out. Lucky he has them. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow morning with Papa Jim, and we'll see what kind of shenanigans we'll get up to then. Until I see you then, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a blessed day. And I love you guys so much. Take care. Bye-bye. And a broadcast.